Are you looking for a memorable getaway for your family that's packed with adventure? Look no further than Lake Erie. Powder Hook, in partnership with the Great Lakes Fishery Commission, has all the resources you need to plan your adventure to the walleye capital of the world. The best part is, you don't have to be an experienced angler or own a boat to have a fantastic time on the water. While walleye are the main attraction, Lake Erie also offers excellent fishing for yellow perch, trout, steelhead, salmon, and bass. The options are endless, and there's so much to explore on Lake Erie. Knowledgeable and friendly fishing guides are eager to serve you. Whether you want to hire a charter, secure a seat on a headboat, fish from the shore, ice fish, or do a DIY trip on your own boat, all these options are at your disposal with a bit of planning and preparation. Find everything you need at powderhook.com. That's powderhook.com. We know what's biting and can help you enjoy a wonderful fishing experience on Lake Erie.
Green smoothies? Dry granola bars? Breakfast shouldn't be this bland. Enjoy a real, flavorful breakfast again with Smithfield bacon, sausage, and anytime favorites, ham. Smithfield Hometown Original Bacon is made by bacon lovers for bacon lovers. Naturally hickory smoked, Smithfield bacon is full of rich and delicious flavor. Made with the highest quality cuts of hand-trimmed pork that are perfectly seasoned, Smithfield Hometown Original Sausage Links will have you drooling for breakfast. Stop hitting the snooze button. Make a breakfast worth waking for with Smithfield. For the love of meat. To learn how to make a meatier, tastier breakfast, check out smithfield.com.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the Western Hunting Hub podcast. It is the off season and lots of things to kind of get done, plan, prepare, and that's kind of what I'm working on right now. I am a couple of months behind from where I was hoping to be with some of my last year's meat preparation. And finally got to it this weekend, and I bit off way more than I could chew. So I would highly suggest, if you have a pile of tags and you can go fill a bunch of tags, all your grind and things you want to do something with, bag it up in 1 gallon bags, freeze it. It'll be good for a little while. And I trimmed it, but I just threw it in a bag, ready to grind. And it was ready to go as soon as I pulled it out of the freezer. But I had about 90 pounds to 100 pounds of that stuff. Over 100 pounds of that stuff. And gave away 40 pounds of that to some friends to go make whatever they want out of it. And then the other 50 plus pounds of that I had to mess with the other day. And I don't know what I was thinking. I thought, I've got most of the day. Why don't I pull this all out and make some good stuff out of it and do everything I had planned, which was a giant mistake. It was way more than I needed to do. I needed to break that up. So lesson learned, don't wait till end of April to take care of all that meat. It was just a little long. I had one little package where there was a couple square inches of some freezer burn, but otherwise it was just fine. But the bigger issue was dealing with all of that in one day. I had some bear fat that needed to be rendered down and make some cracklings out of, which I was not a fan of until just recently when I looked up a recipe and realized, yeah, you just don't pop them in your mouth after they cool down, but you season them and they taste pretty good, actually. So I made some of those and froze them. I'll pull them out again for some hunting snacks. So in the off season, another great thing to do with some of that bear fat is do that. And I like taking a little bit of that grease and throwing it in the pan before I cook my eggs. It makes a little bit of a mess because it's splattering, but it gives that your eggs just a really good flavor. And then the cracklings I'll pull out for a trail snack. If you do live in any trout country, another great thing to do is catch some fish and smoke it. I did a little bit of that and have some. I'll just have that frozen till hunting season. I'll put that in my pack. I usually like to buy the packaged salmon, that is smoked salmon, but it's really expensive. So why not just catch some local fish that I really typically don't like to eat and smoke it, and it'll be a good, healthy trail snack. So that was one of the things I had, bear fat. next, pheasant, turkey legs, and some leftover pheasant breasts. I decided I'm going to make some sausage out of that. So you got to grind it, mix it, and so on. That was one project done, about 8 pounds of that. Then summer sausage and snack sticks. That was the big project that I had planned for, and I had purchased some stuff. The Walton's, there's my box. I was looking at what that company was. Walton's seasoning, really good. And I had a buddy recommend them. Looked at their videos, and he shared a recipe. Really helpful. Definitely not meant for a Traeger smoker, but something that can be cold smoked and something a little lower temperature. My Traeger can only get to 180. It needs to be a lot lower than that. So I'm going to mess around with the cooking techniques there, but looking forward to making some summer sausage and snack sticks, which I typically don't do because I've never really figured them out. But look at the Walton's videos, and I think you can figure it out. It's pretty easy, and a sausage stuffer is kind of important. Don't mess around with the meat grinder; it's a pain. And then on top of that, thought, well, I got what did I have left? Maybe 10 pounds of bear sausage. Okay, mix up my bear sausage and gonna package that. That's still sitting in the gallon Ziploc after I mixed it all up because I ran out of freezer paper. Then about 50 pounds of just regular old burger. Had to grind that and add in pork fat to that as well. So that mostly got packaged. Ran out of freezer paper. One thing I'm very disappointed in Rapid City, South Dakota, is their supply of freezer paper. It's horrible. There is not. There was zero freezer paper in our grocery store, so I got to go to Walmart and see what they have. So, way too much on my plate. But if I had done that in January or February, I would have been a lot more pleased with myself and spread that out to make that workload not so much of a deal. But I am pleased with having to save all that and don't mess with it during the season. Don't mess with one deer here, one deer there. Save that all up. And if it's just one deer you end up getting, then go for it. Do it during or just after the season. But I'd suggest, especially when you got doe tags and you can get a plethora of different species, wait till it's all done and do a big project where you take on. It's going to be summer sausage day. It's going to be bear sausage day, and so on. But moving on, the other things we're looking at in the off season here is it is legislative season, and I'm posting a lot about howl.org's posts and the bills. Make sure you get onto Howl and share your Howl there. I am making sure I share everything with that and kind of keeping things updated. I haven't received one of their Howl updates in a while, but as soon as I get one, I will post it. I bet there's one coming here shortly. But I did listen to, and this is something that's kind of fascinating. If you don't listen to your state's commission meetings, I think that's a great way to get involved. And so I know that there's a lot of Colorado listeners here, so I went and pulled, or Colorado hunters, I went and pulled the last commission meeting and gave it mostly a watch. It's kind of long, but very informational. So a couple of things that I picked up from that. This one was focused on the Northwest Region Deer Herd Management Plan, which I have an interest in because that's where I do majority of my hunting. And there was some questions about and some studying going on with the pressure from activity on wildlife. And with a real rough winter, that is something that is of interest. So there, if you Google Colorado Guide to Planning Trails with Wildlife, there's a whole document there. Look at the summary. It's on CPW's website. You can pull that up, and yeah, it's got some information on it, but there's one piece that I was really hoping for, and one of the commissioners did a really good job of asking a question. He said, is there one, or she said, is there one specific activity that is creating more pressure on wildlife? And I was just waiting for shed hunting. Nope, that's not what came. But the statement that person said is trail-based activity is causing issues. And another one is anything with dogs off a leash. So and I do take my dog for a walk when we're shed hunting off the leash, and that is, I can see that. That might be something to compromise with down the road, is if we are hitting the woods early to shed hunt, maybe you leave your dog at home. I don't know. That's part of the fun, is having your dog with. So if there is a compromise, maybe that's it. Just to or there's wildlife in the area, maybe leave them, which is tough for it because they're our companions and we want to hike with them. But that was something that came up. So food for thought on that. But what I was thinking more of was trail-based activities. That's not shed hunters. That is off-road vehicle recreators and your typical hikers, yelling and talking and giggling and laughing, that never see wildlife because they're talking too loud on the trail. Maybe that's it. Typically when I'm shed hunting, I'm pretty quiet. You're just moving through the woods like you're hunting. So I'm going to defend shed hunting in that way, that we are still not creating that much, not as much pressure, the majority of us, as some of those other recreators that are getting out. And here in South Dakota, this is a problem, a big problem. We're seeing some of the posts of people trying to catch people and trying to make a statement of it, that off-road vehicle use needs to stop. You see shed hunters seeing snowmobile tracks all over the place and four-wheeler tracks just all over the place without a trail nearby, and that is going to be extremely disruptive. That's a big problem in South Dakota, and I hate it. It drives me nuts, just because, one, it's illegal, and two, I'm the one, and many of us are hiking instead of being lazy and cruising in, trying to cover ground. So if that's you, knock it off. And maybe share some of that word. I'm sure that's happening in other states as well. So let's keep our off-road vehicles on the trail, which would be great. Some other interesting things that popped up during that commission meeting and I'm seeing this in multiple commissions talking more about renewable energy. And it makes sense that they're going to be asked about that to do environmental impact statements when it comes to, is this solar field or wind farm going to disrupt wildlife? But typically, the agencies are the last ones to be able to approve that sort of thing. And so much work has already been done by these private companies to approve the renewable energy source, solar field, wind farm, something like that. And it's almost too late at that point. They've already done all this work. So getting that pressure to deny something is kind of a big deal. So they're asking to get ahead of some of these things. And one of the commissioners had a great idea of, could we have a system in place where this area, like a map, is off limits. You can't do it. And so that saves all those private companies to remove, like, not even try in those areas, which, is that going to work or not? I don't know, but interesting idea. And then another commissioner came up with a really, really good point, that as these people or the commissioners were talking about the renewables and they were all in support of this or that, and okay, we got to figure it out. But the common theme across most of these commission meetings are habitat loss. And habitat is always in the plan as an issue and having to deal with that. And here we are looking at 1,000-acre solar fields. There's a 1,000-acre solar field in Colorado in the works. And do you think that's going to have some habitat loss? Absolutely. So yet we're in support of, and I'm saying we as in not me, CPW being in support of some of these renewables, but yet habitat loss is kind of that, well, it's okay when it's a renewable. So something to think about there, that it made me think, and made some of those other commissioners think as well, that that's just not okay. And last on the portion that I watched of the CPW commission meeting was the wolf management plan. They're in another draft, and I guess the final gets approved May 3rd and 4th, third or fourth, something like that. So I have a email out to CPW, and we're waiting until after that. And I'm going to get a person on to do a full synopsis or a summary of the 253 plus or minus 25 pages, doesn't matter, 253 pages of a wolf management plan. And I'm sure there's a lot in there that is okay and makes sense. Otherwise, and a whole bunch of it that is things getting snuck in. So we're not in the discussion now of whether we agree with it or not. It's happening. I read that on Howl for Wildlife, their little bill that they need help with right now. So go and do something about that before May 3rd, 4th, in support of some landowners that need reimbursement for loss of livestock. So go sign that. So yeah, again, the argument is not whether or not we agree with the wolf management or wolf reintroduction. It's happening. It's law. So now we just have to state our voices on how to manage them and make sure that we as sportsmen get a way to be involved, instead of it being a endangered species list thing that it just stays on there forever, no matter how many wolves are there. Colorado's got me a little nervous on a few things, and that's one of them. But in this off season, I'm transitioning again. In this off season, we are also in application season. I've had other application related things, but I believe I've got most of my game plan down. And so this episode, I really wanted to do a state by state breakdown to kind of figure out not just what I'm doing, but maybe some helpful tips for you on looking at each state in the West. Most of the West. I've actually been west of the Mississippi River. So for sure, a ton of the West, looking at every single state here. So I'm going to break each one of those down into maybe a way of rotating or a way of accessing each one of those states for your hunting needs. So this year's draft goals are archery, elk, and a bear is just a backup tag in Colorado. That's my first one on the list and the first hunt of the year. Going to be high pressured. I know it's going to be a season with lots of people all over, and I'm nervous about that. Like I've said in previous episodes, closed units to over-the-counter. Mark my words, this is the last season of over-the-counter or the second to last season of over-the-counter. That's my prediction. It's not fact right now, but that's what I'm going to say is going to happen, because there's just no way they can maintain this over-the-counter thing when you keep closing units and units. What are you going to have over-the-counter for 10 units? That'd be horrible. So we'll see what happens, especially with their die-off of, or yeah, there's some die-off of wildlife that are struggling this winter. So we're going to spend September in Colorado, and if we do well, I'll go buy a tag. Otherwise, I'm just going to be taking my dad. Then next on my list was going to be in not the season order, but a new adventure to Montana and to get a general tag there. So scratch that, didn't draw it, which is kind of cool that their draw is early enough and you get your results within 2 weeks. I haven't got an email, but I just went and looked it up. Montana results are really out. I did not draw Montana, which I'm kind of thankful for, and I'll explain later. But that was going to be the new deer adventure. So spending some time in Montana. It was roughly 52 to 54% odds for that general tag without any preference. Didn't draw it. So I guess I'm one of the half that didn't get it. But so scratch that. What am I going to fill that with? I'm not sure. Arizona? ? Or stay home and spend some time with my options here in South Dakota. Nebraska? Possibly. We're going to look at that.
Sometimes I can't believe how much food waste I take to the garbage can each week. I throw away something on Monday, and by Friday it's a disgusting, stinky mess smelling up my kitchen. Then I got a Lomi. Lomi allows me to turn my food scraps into dirt with a push of a button. Lomi is a countertop electric composter that turns scraps to dirt in under 4 hours. There's no smell when it runs, and it's really quiet. Thanks to Lomi, I have way less garbage each week, and I have amazing fertilizer that my wife loves to use in our garden. I feel great knowing that I'm composting and creating soil instead of waste. If you want to start making a positive environmental impact, or just make cleanup after dinner that much easier, Lomi is perfect for you. Head to lomi.com/waypoint and use the promo code WAYPOINT to get $50 off your Lomi. That's $50 off when you head to lomi.com/waypoint and use promo code WAYPOINT at checkout. Food waste is gross. Let Lomi save you a cold trip out to the garbage can.
Home state. That's the next thing on my list for sure. Archery deer is always a must. You got to take care of those home state hunts first and make those a priority. There's a lot of great stuff around your home state. So I'm going to spend some time here doing archery deer and probably going to shoot for a mule deer hunt of some kind with that archery tag. And maybe something else within my state. I'm not sure. Maybe some rifle tags. Maybe go and do some archery antelope here in South Dakota. I don't know. There's a lot of wonders what I'm going to do, and I don't have to make that decision right now. My application for Colorado is in, and I know that I'm not going to draw anything there. I don't have any other apps out that I'm waiting for at this point. So let's kind of break this down, how I came to some of these conclusions, or I'm working through some of these conclusions. First off, like I've said in multiple season planning episodes, is you got to set your goal, set your budget. And my budget gets more set around what is that money that I'm not going to get back. And I added it up, which was a little more painful to realize that this is money I'm just dumping every single year. But I know I'm going to create some opportunities down the road. $800 to $1,000 is what I spend just for applying in different states, which is not actually that much compared to some people. $800 to $1,000 is what I'm willing to just give up for preference points, for options to draw for you got to get qualifying licenses in various states. And those $25 to $50 preference points add up. Colorado's my big one. That's the one that I drop a ton of money in. So why that's so big for moose, goat, and sheep. And I want to have an option for moose, goat, and sheep. That's where I started. So I'm going to continue on with that. But first off and foremost, your home state has to be on the top of the list. Work through your hunts in your home state first. And set those up. My goals for this year are going to be, one, it's patience and looking for a quality animal. So that means not a ton of tags for me. Like I said in the beginning of this episode, my freezer's pretty full, and I'm not going to go crazy giving that away, so I don't have that pressure that I need to go fill it. And I know that I could easily buy, even in as late as December, I could go buy some doe tags, go shoot 3 does, and be fine. I don't have to worry about the meat option, so that's going to be something I can worry about later. I'm going to look at quality of hunts and go have some fun hunting adventures. I'm not going to have the pressure to shoot something. That's my goal, is just to have some patience and not feel the pressure to pull the trigger on something that I don't necessarily want to shoot. So let's start breaking down these states, minus your home state. One, I guess, I just said home state. You're not all from South Dakota, so let me start with South Dakota, since that's my home state. There is no longer over-the-counter on public land, unlimited South Dakota archery deer and antelope. You had to apply, or have to apply. I think that's still open. I can't remember. But you will have to apply. Yes, it is open. And that's going to significantly reduced that. Our tags are cheaper. It's unlimited still on private land, so maybe if you got some options there, you could still look at South Dakota for that. But and you can just show up and buy your tag on private land. South Dakota is a great option for some of that stuff. Your preference points are cheap. You don't have to buy a qualifying license or anything. For non-residents, I believe you're just spending $10 per preference point. You can't hunt elk here, but you can hunt deer and antelope. So if you're buying preference points, South Dakota is a great state to be doing that, and it's cheap and easy. Colorado, this is my frequent state, is what I labeled it. So you got your home state, and then get your frequent state that you spend a lot of time in that you want to go to frequently. I have it in the rotation for elk that do my over-the-counter for now, and I'm planning on doing draw stuff in the future. And almost all of my stuff that I'm planning points for or saving points for is in that 5 to 10 point range. I am not saving for 15, 20. I'm not making those commitments except for moose, goat, and sheep. So I have a 5 to 10 point plan across the West that if I have 5 to 10 points, I could get a decent tag and I could draw them frequent enough to be able to go and do a bunch of elk hunting. So Colorado is one of those that in the next, I have 6 points, probably in the next 4 to 5, 6 years, that's a tag I want to draw. Deer, that's my every 4 year tag, unless I can, and this is a good point, you can save those up, but you can also go pick stuff up off the reissue list and apply for those, which is a really good option. It's not as, you can't do it as well as you used to, where you just swoop in and it'd show up randomly in the middle of the week. I missed that. So that's a bummer. You have to just apply like everyone else and maybe get it, or nope, it just pops up on that one day and there's no way you can be fast enough to get those. Antelope, that I do have a little bit of a long game in that one. I'm going to wait for a decent unit, as in about 10 years. I'm at about 8, I think now, but it's going to be that'll be a good one. Moose, goat, and sheep. This is my hopefully someday state. Wyoming, not the state to do it in anymore. Montana might be. Nevada would be a good sheep unit state. But the moose, goat, and sheep, this is where I started. My odds are slim to nil, but it's where I started. So I'm going to just keep pumping $300 a year into it and see what happens. I know I've already gotten a goat tag, and I bet you I can get another one down the road. I know I can. And if I just keep plugging away, I'm going to hopefully draw one. The good news with the moose, goat, and sheep for me, where I'm at with my points at about 5 weighted points, which is not a lot, but it is still ahead of the big bulbous number of applicants when you didn't have to pay that $100. There was a year when you didn't have to pay to apply and get a point any more than $7 a piece. So there was a whole bunch of new applicants, and I'm ahead of that. So that's good for me. And then bear. If you want to hunt fall bear, Colorado's the place to do it. $100 tags, lots of bears, and CPW wants plenty of those to be removed. So great place to go hunt some fall bear. Moving on to Montana. Montana is a new state for the rotation to be able to spend some time elk hunting. And the only downfall is that it is expensive. The general tag opportunity is going to be occasional. I'm not going to be able to do that every single year. Like I said, it's 50-some%. And the preference points for those are $100. So preference points are for the general draw, and you add that $100 in for just getting that. Bonus points are for your, I'm probably not going to say the right term, but limited draws and those sorts of things where you're applying for a specific unit outside of that general draw. There's a lot more to it, but I've been able to learn Montana enough to figure out what my game plan is. And so I'm going to shoot for 3 to 5 bonus point units for deer and elk, and then preference points. You can only have 3, and I didn't buy it because it was another $100, and that would put me over my budget. I figured at 50% odds, why not just put in, and if I get it, great. If not, no big deal. I would suggest, though, and this is why I'm kind of glad I did not draw Montana this year, is because that tag alone was $700, and you got to pay for it up front. Hopefully, I'll be getting a check here pretty soon. That should be coming to reimburse me for not drawing that tag. But the better option is to make Montana a elk and deer year. And if you go get your bow hunter certification, you can go and do that state. That's a bow hunter certification required state. And you buy that bow permit for another $10. You can go bow hunt and then come back during the rifle season. How awesome is that? So if you buy the elk and deer combo for roughly $1,200, that is a better option than buying just a elk license for $1,000 and just the deer combo for $700. I'm probably off a little bit on my numbers, but it's pretty close. So I'm going to spend $1,200. Maybe I'm going to shoot for it next year. Try and go there and do a general hunt. Go in September, do some archery elk. Then maybe deer in there. Another archery deer if September works out for that. Maybe archery deer or elk depending on the unit. And then come back during the rifle elk season. And then come back in late November or mid-November for the mule deer rut. So I could spend a lot of time in Montana, and Montana is a pretty close drive for me. So it kind of seems like an all or nothing state, and Montana is going to be that for me because I could literally be in Montana in 3 hours, 2.5 hours. 2 hours, something like that. So anyway, I could do that state pretty close or drive 7 hours and be in some pretty good country. There's a lot of stuff there, and there's a lot of general units. So Montana's looking pretty good, and I know there's a lot of guys that have a lot of success there. It's complicated. Maybe that's what scares a lot of people away. But I tell you, some of those onX videos, Randy Newberg videos, Go Hunt videos, all those that break down the states, they really simplify those. So watch those. I don't really want any more competition, but I think we're past that point in me determining whether I believe in R3 or not. Wyoming. Wyoming is a very resident-friendly state, so as a non-resident, I got to plan out a little bit more. It's going to take me 3 years to get what a resident could get every year. So yeah, I have to take that into consideration. That I am looking at Wyoming for antelope and elk. I think I started with deer as well. Maybe. If not, I should. Deer, elk, antelope. This is not a year to apply for antelope, I don't believe, because I think they're having some massive die-off, so that's off the table as another backup plan for this year. But this one is in that same rotation for having an elk hunt in that every 2 of 3 years, and I'm going to break that down a little bit. But antelope's kind of on that list for a good unit, or not a good unit, but a decent unit. I'm shooting for that 5 to 8-ish point area, just to get something that's touch better. I'm not doing any of those 20-point units at all. That's not really in my game plan for anything but moose, goat, and sheep. And that one's in the elk rotation for that maybe 5-year mark. I figure 3 years is just going to get me what residents can get. I'll look at that 5-year mark, see if there's something else that's a little bit better. So that's Wyoming. Kansas. This is a future new state for whitetail or mule deer. I got nothing on Kansas other than preference points are not that bad, and looking at it. So I'd consider it putting in for a point there. Arizona is a point state, but it's not in my point rotation or to buy points there because it has. I have to buy or I have to apply. Yes, I believe I have to apply, and correct me if I'm wrong. I have to apply to get that for something and not draw it to get that point. And that can be a little expensive. Even if I put in for something I know I'm not going to get, I don't know if I want to do that just because of the expense piece to it. I may consider it for, and help me out, Ryan, when you're listening to this, we can talk later, but doing something with 3-ish points, 3 points to get me something kind of cool in Arizona, maybe for 3 years or so. I can plan to do something that's a little bit better than a guaranteed draw for the first year. Maybe there is no great options for a guaranteed draw, but otherwise that's for elk. In Arizona, over the counter is still on my list for someday, maybe this year. I don't know. Ryan, what do you think? Am I coming down? It would be a good year to come down. I keep thinking about the moisture you're getting now, and if that holds out for spring and summer, it could be a pretty good year for Arizona. Nevada. This is maybe a dream state for me, but expensive to apply, so it's not in the rotation to apply for there. I know they got big bucks, bulls, and sheep, and it's a little far away. So that one is off the rotation for me. Utah. You have to buy a license for preference points, so that's another reason why I don't apply for that one, because it puts me over the budget. But another great state to do that in. Maybe that could be your Colorado. My Colorado is the one that I put all that money into. Maybe Utah is it. Maybe Nevada is it. Maybe Arizona is that, or some of the Montana. Try and find out where it is that you want to put in for. New Mexico and Idaho, those are no point states. So if you decide to hunt those, then just apply. This will be then on my list for someday. Because there is no points, I don't have to plan too far ahead in any of that other than just paying attention to it and finding out where some of those places might be, doing a little research. So this is a good possibility to apply for an elk hunt down the road, but it wouldn't be guaranteed, obviously. So I'm thinking more New Mexico than Idaho. I don't know. That's just an option for one of those off years that I don't have a elk tag somewhere else, that I may consider New Mexico or Idaho if I could draw something and go with no points or forget the point thing. One of those better odd units, what I'm trying to say. California, that one's no interest to me, not for the sake that it's California. It's just it's not very close. And bear is what I hear is really good in California, but I don't have any interest to go in there. I don't want to travel too far for bear because there's some really great options closer. So if you're closer to California, that might be something you want to put on your list. Washington or Oregon, it's not on my list to hunt. Just for whatever reason, if I get an invite or intel on that, maybe I'll have a change of mind later on. But again, just not in the budget to apply for that, so it's not on my list. North Dakota, not on the list, but I don't know much about it. I would consider it in the future. So don't overlook North Dakota. Do a little digging into that one. Nebraska, this one, you have to, I believe you have to apply to get points. And this is probably not a year to go mule deer hunt Nebraska. They got pounded in the panhandle of Nebraska. They got absolutely pounded with snow this year. It was one of their rough years. So actually considering it for this year for me for whitetail. Second to last on the list is Oklahoma. It's not on my list anyway, but it's another one of those states that could be a sleeper state. I'm not sure. Look into it. Don't rule it off the list. I saw Blake Shelton putting in the corn the other day on Instagram, and I believe he's from Oklahoma, so maybe he knows something. Texas, that one I just put on my list is show the money. I did see a post something about there are some DIY hunts that you can apply for. Someone posted that today. So I don't know where that was. Look into it. There's some things there, but most of that is what do you want to hunt and how much is it going to cost you? I will hunt that state just because one of my best friends is down there, and I know he's going to tell me we have this hunt we need to do. He does an odd ed hunt, and he just said I'd love it. So that may happen down the road. If you're looking to shoot something, and high fence stuff is really not my gig. Even the low fence stuff, it's not necessarily my thing. But it just with the style of hunting, but there's still an option to go hunt, and I'm not going to turn down something to go hunt if it is presented and it's reasonable price. So look at that. Texas is one of those that you can go maybe have some other options. So some of the conclusions is I've set my budget and I kind of broke that down. I said about that 800 to 1,000 total. Colorado ended up being about 450. Montana is about 75. South Dakota or my home state, is about 80 to 100. All these are non-refundable money that I'm spending. Kansas about 25. Wyoming 125. And total for that is at 775, 800, somewhere in there. And I bet you there's a little bit more on top of that. So that's why I just went up to that 1,000. So I've set that budget. I've determined kind of what I want to do for the year and trying to stay within that. So you can see where we looked at your home state, Colorado, your one state that you're going to put all your eggs in one basket, as in your pennies that you're looking for some cool hunts. And then my rotation, if you could pick up on this, I want to hunt elk at least every other year. So 3 states, as in Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, each gets me an elk hunt every 3-ish years. So if I'm going with someone else that fills one of those years, I will count that as an elk hunt. I don't really care. I don't have to be the tag holder. But at least I'm going. Then supplement with Colorado over the counter or other easy to draw, easy to get, gets me down to one more time in each of those 3 years. So I'm getting, I know this math is probably not making sense to you, but so I'm sitting at 2 of every 3 years going elk hunting. That's my goal right there. That's what I would shoot for. So I'm easily getting that every other year, or every 2 of every 3 years. So that could work. And then if I supplement like an Idaho, Arizona, New Mexico in an easy draw hunt, then that makes it happen even more. But that may not happen. So shooting for that 2 to 3 out of 3 years to go elk hunt. And the reason for the year off would just be expense. Or also switching up a big antelope hunt or a big deer hunt with something like that. Or definitely not, probably not, I know if I draw a good tag of moose, goat, and sheep, the elk hunt ain't going to happen. I'm not going to elk hunt. I'm going to look at the moose, goat, and sheep as one of those, or something big in another state. So that's going to happen one of these years, I bet. I'm hoping. So I'll not elk hunt that year. So that's my focus is I really want to hunt elk every 2 of 3 years. It's not a perfect rotation, but with the points I have, and I've set this up over the last 5, trying to get a few points in each, I think I can just about do it. In those years that I'm not elk hunting, I want to throw in some other different states and focus on archery in the home states and anything else nearby. So in overview, if you followed along with me, hopefully I gave you some motivation to look at some other states and to look at your home state. So set your goals. Maybe that's archery mule deer, archery elk. I feel like those are my main 2 goals with also my hunting style goals. Plan what is possible and then set the time and the budget for what you're able to do. So good luck in this application season. Share with me what you got planned. Love to hear what those options are for you and what you're thinking, or where I went wrong with some of these states, or what I should look into. Love to hear any tips on applying. I think this is fun stuff. I love looking at stats. I started an Epic Outdoors membership, but really I like to look at them myself. So it's okay. The membership is fine. I might look at Go Hunt next year. And the publication's great. It's really good. It did help me. I will say that it did help me look at what I wanted to do, even in Colorado this year. So those things are helpful in being able to learn some of those other states, and it gives recommendations on what good units are. So look into those. But set your goals and have fun with your off-season shooting, your meat care, and enjoying some of that fruits of your labor from the fall, and listen to those commission meetings and learn something new and stay involved. Thanks for listening.
Ground, this is God's country.